My name is Stuart Matthews from the Proper DIY YouTube channel, and in this video I'm going to show you how to tile a splashback. Now, splashback projects are nice little projects. They're not huge. What I'm tiling today is only less than 1.5 square meters, but they do contain near enough every element of a standard tiling project. We've got setting out of tiles, obviously cutting and laying, I've got trim here, and grouting as well. So there's a lot to get through in this video, so I'd highly suggest watching all the other videos in this series where I run through all of those things in a lot more detail. But today, the first thing I'm going to do in my own mind is work out where the first tile is going to start, and that's the setting out of the tiles, and that just means where it's going to go left and right and up and down. It's important to position the tiles so you don't end up with any slivers at each end. So making a story stick like this can help see exactly where your joints are going to be. So now I've checked this plinth, I've decided that this is going to be my starting point. I would normally advise starting on the second row and cutting the bottom tile to suit whatever you're tiling up to. But because I've just checked this work surface and checked this plinth and it's all within about 0.5 millimeter, I'm happy that this is level and this is where I'm going to start. And I've also decided that I'm going to finish and actually cut this tile maybe about 20 mil in. And I've got a cut tile here. Is if I tile up to this glass splashback here, the tile is thicker than the splashback. And especially once I put some adhesive on that, that's going to show that ragged edge. So what I've decided is to use some trim. I've got this stainless steel looking aluminium trim that I'm actually going to put in place between the tiles and this glass splashback. And that means that that will finish the tile quite nicely, and it hides that edge and it looks fairly smart. Now, the one thing about trim is that trim comes in different sizes. So you have to get trim to match the size of your tiles. If the trim is too big, you end up with quite an unsightly lip there. So just make sure that one fits the other. Before any work is carried out, protect the whole area because things are going to inevitably get messy. Make sure the electricity is turned off from all the circuits in the area you're tiling in, and undo the cover plates because you're going to need to get behind these. I fixed my fence on the tile cutter so I can cut a number of tiles all the same length, which will speed up the process. So I'm just about prepared and ready to start tiling. I've cut as many tiles as I can in preparation, and these trim pieces that go on either side. And the type of adhesive I'm using on this is ready mixed adhesive, which is suitable for small format ceramic tiles. And I'm using ready mix because when I'm looking at what I'm about to do, I've got lots of little cuts to do around all the electrical sockets, which is going to slow me down. So what I don't want to do is mix up a big batch of standard adhesive and end up throwing half of it away because it's going off quicker than I can work. Whereas this, I can patch a small area, just put a few tiles up, then slow down while I do the cuts, and then put some more on, and it will last me all day as long as I keep it covered and stop the air getting to it. So I think it's about time to start tiling. Not all tiles are suitable to be used with ready mixed adhesive, so please see my which tile adhesive video to make sure that you're going to use the right type. I apply the adhesive to the wall with the flat part of the trowel and also fix the trim piece in place. Then using the notched edge of the trowel, I make ridges in the adhesive ready to accept the tiles. With the amount of cuts I have here in front of me, I'm only fixing one row at a time until I've cut all the tiles in the next row. To carry out these type of 90-degree cuts, you're going to need either a tile cutter or an angle grinder like I have. But either way, it's really important to use the right PPE, as in goggles, gloves, and a dust mask. With all the cuts made in the next row, I add more adhesive and then continue fixing. When fixing any tiles, make sure you give them a twist and a push to collapse the ridges in the adhesive so they're well bonded, and using plastic spacers throughout keeps everything looking straight. Just a little tip when you're cutting out around switches and sockets is you don't actually have to be that accurate. The cover plates have got quite a big overhang that tends to hide a multitude of sins. So if you're a few millimeters out, plus or minus, no one's going to know, and that cover plate is going to hide everything. For awkward shaped pieces in tight areas, it's sometimes better to put the adhesive on the tile rather than the wall. It's not really what you want to do everywhere, but in certain cases it can really help. The tiles have now had a good 24 hours to gain some strength, and now they're not going anywhere, which means we're ready to grout. But before we just mix up some grout and put it on the tiles, it's a really good idea at this point to give everything a really good clean. Both the face of the tile, which means it's going to be easier for us to get it clean later after grouting, but more importantly, the grout joints, the joints between the tiles, we need to make sure that there's no adhesive left in those, because that's where the grout's going to go, and if there's adhesive in there, you can sometimes see it pop in through the grout. So we need to go through every grout joint and make sure they're completely clear, ready for grout. Mixing grout for a large wall, I would definitely recommend using a drill and a paddle mixer. But for a small area like this, it can sometimes be easier just to use a jug and a spatula and do it by hand. I'm using a soft face float here and working the grout into all of the joints. The consistency of the grout you're looking for here is what I would describe as melting ice cream, as it soon starts drying out when it hits the tiles, so a little bit wetter is easier to work with and gives you a little bit more time. Once all the joints are filled and I've removed as much grout as possible with the float, I use a damp sponge to start cleaning off the excess. This is a repetitive process of taking off as much grout as possible, then washing and wringing out the sponge and repeating until the face of the tiles is clean and you're only left with the grout in the joints. After only a few minutes, the grout gains enough strength for me to swap the sponge with dry paper towel so I can polish the surface. So once the grout had got some strength, I sealed around the whole perimeter with anthracite coloured silicone sealer to match the dark grey grout. And it's amazing how just a few tiles can change the look and the feel of a kitchen overnight. So as I said, go and have a look at the rest of the videos in this series, which gives you more detail on each one of those steps that I went through to create a splashback like this. I hope this has helped, and I will see you in the next video.